Donald Trump's new attempt to explain why he held on to classified documents is raising questions. Some opponents likening Trump's TV interview to a confession. This as the indicted former president has a new tentative trial date. CNN's Jessica Schneider is covering all of the new developments.
In his first TV interview since being indicted on federal charges, former President Trump said he retained classified documents even after being subpoenaed by the Justice Department, offering a new explanation why.
Why not just hand them over then?
Because I had boxes. I want to go through the boxes and get all my personal things out. I don't want to hand that over to NARA yet. And I was very busy, as you've sort of seen. I have every right to have those boxes. This is purely a Presidential Records Act. This is not a criminal thing.
His claims are untrue, and Trump is being charged criminally. He's facing 37 counts, including conspiracy and retaining national defense information. Trump also continuing to insist he declassified everything in his possession while president.
As far as the levels and all, everything was declassified because I had the right to declassify.
His criminal trial is now moving forward. Florida federal judge Eileen Cannon setting a tentative but swift schedule, asking for pretrial motions to be submitted by the end of next month, with a trial date in Fort Pierce, Florida, set for August 14th. That date, though, will likely change, with Judge Cannon noting the parties could push back the trial start date because of the complexity of the case and issues related to classified information.
The Iran attack plan, you remember that?
Ready?
You were recorded.
It wasn't a document.
Trump denying news reports that he flaunted documents he knew were classified related to Iran in the summer of 2021 at his Bedminster Golf Club in New Jersey, even though, according to the indictment, he was captured in an audio recording admitting that the material was, quote, highly confidential and that it was still classified. Now he's insisting all he ever had were newspaper clippings.
These boxes were interspersed with all sorts of things, golf shirts, clothing, pants, shoes. There were many things. I would say much more, not that I know of. There was no document. That was a massive amount of papers and everything else talking about Iran and other things. And it may have been held up or may not, but that was not a document. I didn't have a document per se. There was nothing to declassify. These were newspaper stories, magazine stories, and articles.
I'm just saying.
All of these statements from Trump post-indictment could be admissible during his upcoming trial, but Trump continues to brush off the broad implications of his criminal charges.
So you're not worried about this case?
Based on the law, zero. Zero.
And Trump is taking fire from many of his former allies, including former Attorney General Bill Barr, who just wrote in an op-ed that if the facts laid out in the indictment are true, he says that Trump's actions amount to, quote, brazen criminal conduct that cannot be justified in any way. Now, Bill Barr, of course, Alex, has denounced Trump's actions before, and Barr did end up resigning as Attorney General in late 2020. That was just weeks before January 6th. Alex.
All right, Jessica Schneider, thank you very much for that report. We are back now with our panel. Elliot, to you, how much damage do you think that Trump has done to his defense with this latest interview?
This is why defense attorneys tell their clients, do not talk, do not give interviews, do not speak publicly. He did not confess to the crimes that he's accused of, but he did provide evidence that, number one, he knew he possessed them, and number two, that he knew there was an ongoing investigation. Both of those pieces of information are relevant to obstruction of justice and this question of possession of defense-related information. So he didn't do himself any favors at all, Alex.
And Maggie, we heard Chris Christie earlier saying that his legal team must be looking for the first window to jump out of. This must illustrate perfectly why he is such a difficult client. He's going against the advice of his legal counsel.
That's one of many reasons. I don't actually know, to be clear, that his legal counsel told him not to go on TV. We know that Trump also likes lawyers who let him, do what he wants, and this is clearly something that he wanted to do. But to Elliot's point, it isn't just that he acknowledged having them. I mean, I was thinking about, a key part of the obstruction was the obstruction of the grand jury subpoena. This indictment really focuses squarely on that, and part of that was that a lawyer for Trump wrote an attestation saying that there had been a diligent search of the property and that they didn't turn anything else up. So Trump is basically saying, yep, I still wanted more time to go through stuff. If that's true, then why did you let your lawyers who were representing him at the time go into this? So to your point, this is often why he has trouble attracting people. There's two reasons, lawyers. One is because he is unmanageable as a client. The other is people don't get paid sometimes. And so neither one of these seems like it's helping.
And in terms of the timeline, Judge Eileen Cannon has now said that the trial date is set for just under 2 months from now, on August 14th. Elliot, how realistic is that?
It is not. This case is not going to trial in August. The judge sort of had to do that to respect the defendant's speedy trial rules or speedy trial rights, but it's not uncommon for judges to set that date and then push it forward once the motions and complicated things come in. This is going to be a very complicated case in terms of dealing with how you get classified information in front of a jury. That's going to take months to resolve. The parties all know that. The judge knew that. And they actually could have worked out some sort of arrangement to set a trial date further ahead in the future. I'm not quite sure why they didn't, but it's not going to trial in August.
I think the judge is very keen on not being seen as the person who is holding this up. I think that's the big issue.
And one of the biggest questions is to what extent Republican voters will respond to this indictment. Abby, we have a new CNN poll showing that support for Trump has dipped since this indictment. Of course, he is still the front runner by quite a large margin, by double digits. So what does that say about the former president's staying power?
I mean, I do think that he has quite a lot of staying power. Republican voters have really taken a lot from Trump. This is clearly, I mean, he's been impeached twice. That's already part of the portfolio here. I think voters know that this is one of many criminal cases that he could face. He's already facing one in New York. That's somewhat baked into the cake, but what you're seeing in those numbers is probably not just the effect of the indictment, it's also the entrance of other candidates into the race as well. Some tugging at his numbers in some ways. The one person that I think so many Republicans are hanging their hat on, Ron DeSantis, did not move really at all in the numbers, which suggests to me that there's not a huge exodus from Trump. It's still gonna be a game of getting a plurality of voters in the Republican primary, and that is still much easier for Trump to do where he is sitting right now than any other person in the field.
Maggie, we just have a few moments left. Your impressions?
There's no question about it. Look, I mean, this is definitely shows, this is one poll, and this is a reliable poll, but it's one poll. It shows a bit of a dip. You know, everything that we have seen so far over time is that these indictments actually generally help Trump. He may face another indictment, at least one, over the coming weeks. This race seems frozen, as best as I can tell, even with these variations.
Yeah, there's lots more that still could come. We have to leave it there. Thank you all. Really appreciate your time and your perspective this evening.